Hit record. Did that come up with the little record thing?
Yep, we are recording. This is happening for real. It's real life.
Cool. I haven't actually used Zoom exactly like this for a webinar, so thanks for bearing with me while I make sure all the tech is working and everybody can see, and we're all good. So awesome. We are going to dive into Let's Not Sugarcoat It.
Yeah, so welcome everybody again. For those who are joining us now or listening to the recording later, thank you. This is Let's Not Sugarcoat It, learning how to crush sugar cravings once and for all. So today, what are we covering? Let's go to the next slide. Ooh, so fancy. So, in this workshop, we're going to learn how sugar affects your mood, your skin, and your body, where sugar is hiding and why that makes it so dangerous. Are artificial sugars the new smoking? How to deconstruct your sugar cravings and work with your body rather than willpower. And healthy sweet alternatives, because health coaches eat dessert too. You know I do. If you're one of my friends, you guys know I definitely like sweet stuff. All right, so who are we? My name is Jill Anenberg Lawrence. I'm a board certified holistic health coach. I graduated from integrative nutrition, as well as I'm Nutritious Life certified. You can find my website at healthuncensored.com. I am obsessed with animals. I have 2 rescue dogs and a kitty, so 5% of every program I do, I donate to an animal charity of choice each month. And my favorite dessert is honestly anything. I like chocolate stuff, of course, but I'm not going to pass up a key lime pie or coconut anything. I love that too. So I really can be tempted. I'm just the same as you guys.
Yeah, for sure. And I am Karen Wojciechowski, and I am also an integrative nutrition health coach, founder of realenergyfood.com and co-founder of the 30-Day Clean Living Challenge. So as I said earlier, I'm from Perth, Australia, and that's where I am calling in from today. But I am addicted to travel and lived and worked from 11 countries in 2016. So that was a big travel year for me, and I am so grateful that I get to work with amazing clients from all these different countries around the world. Now my favorite dessert is ice cream. I also have quite a sweet tooth, but we're gonna show you in this webinar how we do this in a more healthy, sustainable way so that we still have good energy levels, we still feel great while having some of these sweet treats. So we're going to get started. We're going to talk a little bit about kind of what is sugar and how it affects your body. And I'm going to try not to get too sciencey here. So we're just going to kind of talk about some of the basics though, so that you get an idea of kind of what we're looking at when we talk about sugar. So, we've got, so when we come to sugar, we've got 2 types of sugar that we really want to talk about. So glucose is the body's primary source of energy. So the body breaks down carbohydrates to glucose and uses it for energy. And glucose can also be created from protein or fat by the liver and kidneys. Fructose is naturally occurring in many plants, and it can be found in whole foods such as fruits and vegetables. But when fructose is combined with glucose, it forms sucrose, and also things like high fructose corn syrup, which you might have heard of. We find in lots of processed foods. So glucose and fructose may have identical molecular formulas, but they have really distinct molecular structures, which forces the body to metabolize and use their energy in very different ways. So as I said, glucose is used by the body as energy, and it's easily broken down by every cell in our body. So it's a really important source of energy for us. However, fructose doesn't. So fructose passes directly to our livers and promotes fat storage. So it can only be processed by the liver, which then puts strain on this organ and can be linked to non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. Fructose is also the really addictive part. So there's lots of studies that say it is more addictive than cocaine. And I think for us who've had some sugar cravings, we can totally, we've totally experienced that, how addictive it can be. And I know for me, whenever I've had sugar, I really feel like it the next day. Whereas if I'm just not eating any sugar, I really, those cravings start to go away. It's quite addictive. Once you have it, your body kind of wants more. And that's because our bodies were originally designed to gorge on fructose, because it's such a good source of fat, which back in caveman days, that was awesome. We needed that. But today, obviously, we don't need that anymore. It's not such an important thing to really find this way of making our body store fat. So fructose also makes us eat more. It has no corresponding we're full now, stop eating switch in our brain. Whereas when we eat, consume glucose, it does signal to our brain that we are full. So it really mucks around with our hunger hormones, which leaves us feeling hungrier. So it kind of, it doesn't make us feel full, it makes us feel hungry. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that as we go as well. So fructose makes us hungry, it isn't used as energy, and the liver has to store all that excess fructose that it can't break down as fat, usually around the liver. So our bodies naturally regulate the amount of glucose in our blood by stimulating our pancreas to secrete insulin, which then helps remove this glucose from our bloodstream. As I said, glucose also triggers the production of your stop eating now, signal to your brain, which is through a hormone called leptin. Fructose doesn't do this, and it actually raises the level of the hormone ghrelin, which is the one that makes us hungry, which really is what makes it so easy to overconsume.
Mm-hmm. So before I get into the scary facts, I just want to touch on what Karen was saying. So ghrelin and leptin, they're two really important hormones to keep in balance. And one reason that it's hard, to eat a good breakfast sometimes is if you don't get a good night's sleep, because your sleep is what also regulates leptin and ghrelin. So leptin is what tells you like, okay, I'm full, stop eating. And ghrelin, I always think of it as like your stomach's growling. Like that's what makes you want to eat a lot. So if you've had, a late night studying or drinking or up for whatever reason, the next day you wake up and you don't want like egg whites or fruit or like yogurt. What you want is like a bagel, or who doesn't want a bagel always, but you'll want something like that, or a donut and a cup of coffee. It's like you want the stuff that's not good for you. And then that leads you into a whole, day of distraught eating. But so it's really important to get good sleep. That's another great way to keep cravings at bay, because you'll start off with your hormones in balance. Okay, so let's get into some scary facts. All right, so on average nowadays, adults are eating 22 teaspoons of sugar a day, and kids are eating 32 teaspoons of sugar. Recommended, men should have no more than 9 teaspoons and women 6 teaspoons. I feel like I can hear everybody now being like, holy shit, that's so little, which it's a very low amount of sugar, and we're far surpassing that. So for example, if you drank 1 soda per day at 9 teaspoons a can, for a year, you on average consume about 35 pounds of additional sugar. And then on average, you can expect a weight gain just from soda of 15 pounds. And added sugar in general contributes to 496 extra calories a day. Also, by the age of 8 years old, a child in America has consumed more sugar than the average person did in their entire lifetime a century ago. Think about that. That's so sad, because by 8 years old, like a child's brain is forming, their bones, like their cognitive thinking, like so much. So sugar is very harmful. 1 can of Coke contains 10 teaspoons of sugar. Some people have a couple in a day. Soda's also, you got to think about everything else that's inside of it. It's preserved with phosphoric acid. So that's going to cause major aging, premature aging. It acidifies inside of our bodies. And then any dark soda is made with caramel coloring, which it's not made from, like maple syrup or something that's caramel color. It's made by heating ammonia and sulfites, which produce a cancerous substance. So that's why people say that it can be sometimes linked to different cancers. All right, so sugar makes us fat. Yeah, it definitely does. So check out the numbers from the beginning of time, so to say, up till now. So like Karen was mentioning, back in the old days, our ancestors ate very little sugar. It was hard to get. And when they did get it, it was in the form of berries or milk, which was naturally organic back then, or a little bit of honey, not in the ways that we are eating sugar nowadays. So if you just look at it, the way that our sugar has increased, it directly correlates with the obesity problem. The other problem with sugar, before we go into all of the increased risks, it creates inflammation in our bodies, throughout our entire body. And chronic inflammation, it makes it hard for us to lose weight. So with less inflammation, you'll see a huge improvement in our gut health too. And sugar breeds all sorts of bad bacteria in our gut health. And we all know that the gut is considered our second immune system and our second brain. So it's really important to get our gut flora in balance as well. Okay, so it increases your risk of, let me make this a little bigger. On average, expect a weight gain of 15 pounds a year. That's something to look forward to. Heart disease and diabetes, because you're consistently producing insulin. Various forms of cancer, tooth decay and obesity, hypertension, insomnia, dizziness and allergies, hair loss, ADHD. Ages the body and it causes wrinkles. That's one of the main things that I always tell women. It's like, if you want to preserve your looks, like cutting back on sugar is one of the best things that we can do. Inflammation, like I just mentioned, it creates free radicals within your body. Mood swings and irritability, not just from having cravings and not being able to get it, but the more sugar that you have, it messes with our hormones and our brain waves. So definitely causes some irritability. Ask my husband. Sorry, babe. Food cravings lowers your immune system. Again, that correlates with your gut health. You can have allergies, insomnia, anxiety, depression, obesity, and it impairs your liver function. There is a longer list, but this list is already long enough. But there's so many things that are linked to having too much sugar. Sugar is addictive. Okay, so we all know sugar is addictive. So there was research that's published in the Public Library of Science conducting an experiment with rats and sugar and cocaine. So basically what they did was they got rats so hopped up on cocaine that they were clinically addicted to it. And then they put into their cage a little water feeder with sugar and another water feeder with cocaine. And which one do you think the rats went to? The one with sugar. So it's been said that it's 8 times more addictive than cocaine. Sugar, it releases dopamine and it lights up the pleasure center of our brains, which is linked to reward and pleasure. So eventually we're going to have a sugar crash because refined sugar, it robs the body of nutrients. So like when we eat sugar, there's many studies that show that it literally lights up the same way as if you're doing drugs. So we have to be careful like how much you consume, because once you get started, it's really hard to stop, just like doing drugs.
So how much sugar are you actually consuming? It's amazing how fast it can add up throughout the day. And so something that is really good to do is to keep a food diary for a week. Write down everything you're eating for a week because it's amazing how much you're not actually aware sometimes of how much you are eating, and a lot of it is hidden. And we're going to talk a bit about that coming up. But here is just some examples. I mean, these are things that we know have sugar in them, but it can, talking about trying to keep it to 6 teaspoons or 9 teaspoons, you have one candy bar and you're up to 6 teaspoons of sugar, or you have a soda, you have one of those energy drinks, you're up to 7 teaspoons of sugar already. So if you're unsure, or it's a really good exercise actually just to do for everyone, is to write down everything you eat for a week and then really have a look. And, it's amazing to see what you're actually eating, because we often, they say we underestimate how much we're eating and overestimate how much we're exercising. So writing it all down could be really, could really help you bring some awareness to what you're actually doing. And there are lots of foods that are branded healthy, or we think are healthy, and can really add up in terms of teaspoon and sugar. We've got somebody here who's got, a salad with balsamic dressing, some dark chocolate, some dates, usually with fruit and yogurt, especially if it's the, sweetened yogurt, chai tea with honey. And this person's up to 23.9 teaspoons of sugar, which is huge. Things like vitamin water. So it's really interesting to do that kind of food diary exercise to see what you're really eating.
Mm-hmm.
Beverages are a huge place where sugar hides really well, and it's so easy to consume large amounts of these in a short amount of time. I feel like these are, in terms of eating food, you kind of get full. These you can just drink so much of it. So, we've got some of the numbers here. It's having any of the juices or some of the Starbucks drinks have huge amounts of sugar, so something to watch out for. Or just be aware of. You really need to know what you're consuming.
Mm-hmm. If I can jump in for just a second too, always double checking the serving size, because it might say 8 fluid ounces of 16 grams of sugar, but in the serving it might be 2 or 2.5. So next thing you know, you're having between 30 and 40 grams of sugar in a drink that probably doesn't even taste all that good. It's like, is it worth it?
That's a huge one. Serving sizes can be really tricky, and there's actually some I know with trans fat, I believe, if it's something like less than a certain amount of trans fat per serving, then they can write no trans fat on the label. I know that's not sugar, but just talking about serving sizes. So they just bring the serving size down to something like 15 grams, which is you in a normal serve, you'd have like 5 of those, but the serving size on the back is really, so that they can then change the label. So they can be really tricky in the way they label things, and the serving size is definitely something to check out for sure.
Yeah, and just a little heads up, anytime something says hydrogenated fat, any sort of hydrogenation, that means that it's trans fat, because the molecular structure of it, basically it converts into your body into trans fat. So anything that's hydrogenated, you want to stay away from.
Totally. So back to sugar, there's a bunch of other foods that we might not realize are actually super high in sugar. So we've got a bunch of them on the screen. Ketchup is a big one. Bread is another huge one that has a lot of sugar. Check it out. Sometimes the second ingredient in bread is sugar. Things like protein powders and protein bars seem really healthy or are labeled really healthy, but they might be a lot of them are really, really high in sugar. I've seen some protein bars where I've looked on the back and they've got a really similar nutritional profile to a Snickers bar. So if you sometimes you're better off just going to get the Snickers bar. So really check that out, because you might be thinking that you're having, this healthy protein bar, and you're really eating a Snickers. So make sure that you definitely check out your ingredients list, so that you can see where they have, how much sugar is added in. And has anybody got a food that they have noticed this on, something that they kind of thought was healthy, and then they had a look and they were really surprised at how much sugar was actually in it? Let me know in the chat. Just pull up the chat box here. Let me know if there's something you've noticed when you've been out shopping, or something kind of you weren't aware of, and you kind of learned, I actually had a lot more sugar than you thought. You've got any that you've noticed, Jill?
Yeah, I was sick a couple months ago during the holidays. Who wasn't? And I had to get cold medicine, and in every single one at, like CVS or Ralph's, wherever I would go, all of them had artificial sugar, or sometimes they had high fructose corn syrup. And then, on another tangent, they also had different types of food coloring, other chemicals and preservatives. And I'm like, this is supposed to make me better, yet there's all this crap in here that's going to make me even worse, that has all these other side effects. Cough drops are another one. And if they don't have all of the sugar, then they'll have like a sugar-free version. And those are, again, we'll get into sugar-free in just a second, but that's no better for us. And toothpaste. Who the hell wants to be putting artificial sugar in their toothpaste in their mouth? It's such a weird thing. I don't know why that's added. So again, I always say, like, whatever you're going to put in your mouth that you're absorbing, that's going to go into your body, like, you got to read the ingredients to make sure you know what it is that you're actually going to be digesting and absorbing into your body.
Yeah, completely. They were good ones. And Jennifer wrote, anything labeled low fat is usually loaded with sugar. Completely. We took fat out of everything and then realized that, oh, hey, it doesn't taste very good once we take all the fat out. So we loaded it up with sugar so that people would still eat it. And it's really, you know, and everybody thinks they're buying these low fat foods that are healthy, and they're absolutely loaded with sugar. So you're completely right. I really stay away from anything that has low fat on the label.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing too is with healthy fats, like we need fats because that's how your body's able to absorb fat soluble vitamins, A, D, E, and K. If you're having something that has zero fat in it, your body's not going to be able to absorb all of the nutrients, and it helps keep you fuller longer, and it'll keep your cravings at bay.
Yeah. Yeah, completely. Jennifer also noticed.
Hi, Jennifer.
She just said, notice that gluten-free pastries, the first ingredient is often sugar rather than what you'd expect, like flour. Completely. Gluten-free doesn't mean healthy. That's another kind of labeling one where, you know, they say gluten-free, and if you really have a look down the ingredients, sometimes, sometimes there's some really great gluten-free products that are amazing, made with something like quinoa flour or almond meal, or there's some really great ingredients in there, but others really fill it with kind of artificial ingredients and chemicals and really lots of sugar to still make it taste okay. So definitely something to check on. There's a lot of gluten. I feel like there's a lot of gluten-free products that aren't very healthy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. And like going back to Gatorade or different energy drinks or like sports drinks, vitamin water, Honest tea, like could be so much further from Honest. There's so much sugar in those. I mean, if you wanted to make your own electrolyte drink, literally just adding a little bit of like all natural real salt or Himalayan sea salt, a couple of squeezes of a lemon, or just having coconut water, all of those things are such safer, better alternatives.
Yeah, completely. Yeah, muffins are glorified cupcakes. Sure are. Muffin is a cake. Totally. Unless you make your own. It's really great ways to make your own.
Muffins. I love muffins.
Yeah, you can make some great ones. And kind of this is kind of what we're talking about. Watch out for advertising. Like, it's amazing that Pop-Tarts have all over, you know, baked with real fruit. Yeah. You know, Pop-Tarts have a lot of sugar, and even Fruit Loops here has you know, made, I don't know whether you can see that actually, but this is a great source of fiber and made with whole grain, you know, and these labels aren't regulated and can be really misleading. So I just skip past the packaging altogether in terms of looking for your information on that front kind of advertising page, and just skip straight to the ingredients list. You know, ingredients lists go from the ingredients that have the most in there. So the biggest ingredient is first. And then, you know, the ones at the end of the ingredients is what is least. There's the least amount of those in the product. So, you know, if you see sugar near the top of that list, you really know that they're adding a lot of added sugar into the product.
They've also started to change a lot of the nutrition labels where they're now showing like added sugar, where they've added anything that's not from the original product. Okay, talking about Fruit Loops here. So there is so much sugar in Fruit Loops that if you take 3 spoonfuls, you're eating 1 whole spoonful of sugar for every 3 spoonfuls of Fruit Loops. It's funny though that, like how you're saying, you know, like the advertising, there was I think it was a Mars candy bar, and on the front it said a good source of protein. And then you turn it around with the ingredients, and there was high fructose corn syrup and all of these different chemicals and additives. And I'm thinking that's not a good source of protein.
No, there are lots of other
organic sugar. It doesn't matter if it's organic or not. It's still going to be a white refined sugar. Like, great that it's organic, but it doesn't make it any better.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so this is one of my most exciting slides. So is artificial sugars, is this the new smoking? I like to think it is. There's so many bad things that come along with it. Okay, so let's go to the next slide. Cool, thank you. So over 10,000 complaints have been filed with the FDA on aspartame since 1980, and it was actually never proven to be safe before it was approved to be in our food supply. Aspartame has been linked to diabetes, autoimmune disorders, depression, birth defects, and several forms of cancer. So the sad thing is there are many foods and many different chemicals and toxins that go out in our food supply, as well as our like beauty products, cleaning products, all of that stuff that haven't been approved. And then once things start happening to our bodies and we get sick, then they start looking at them, and then it's years until they can get them off the shelves, if ever. Splenda and sucralose, it was originally created as an insecticide, and now we're putting it in our coffee. So the thing with artificial sugar is it's 200 to 700 times sweeter than normal sugar. It causes weight gain because our bodies taste sweet, but then they have no calories or any nutrients behind it. So then we crave even more sweet foods to fill that nutritional hole. And studies show that 1 can of diet soda a day can lead to a 5-pound weight gain in a year. There was a study where people never drank soda, and then they started drinking diet soda, and just strictly from that, they gained 5 pounds. So just because it's diet doesn't mean anything. So the other thing too, so artificial sweeteners, it's just a chemical concoction. It distorts our natural taste. And if you have artificial sweeteners and then you have something that's made of real sugar, like the balance of it is off. You're not able to taste how sweet something, like you have a strawberry and it doesn't taste that sweet to you because you just had a packet that's 200 times sweeter than that. Artificial sweeteners, they also disrupt our hormones. And then sugar alcohols in particular, that's anything that ends, like in a tall, like maltitol, sorbitol, erythritol. All of those have negative effects on our gastrointestinal system. So that's a lot of like gas, bloating, diarrhea. The other thing, there's a couple more points. So with artificial sugar, 1, it's been linked to cancer. 2, it's linked to diabetes. In one published study, consuming diet soda daily was associated with a 67% greater risk of developing type 2 diabetes. And diet soda drinkers also had a 36% greater risk of developing metabolic syndrome, which includes increased blood pressure, high triglycerides, that's your cholesterol, elevated blood sugar, and a higher, bigger waistline. And then it's also linked to heart disease as well.
And I feel like artificial sweeteners can be kind of addictive too. I know through university, I was a big Diet Coke addict. I'm a recovered Diet Coke addict now, wouldn't touch the stuff, but used to almost have like if anybody a big Diet Coke drinker, let me know in the comments. I used to almost have like a thirst for Diet Coke. Like I would feel thirsty just for Diet Coke. Like it gets quite addictive and it can be quite hard to give up, but it really is linked to just so much stuff. It's really, I found that really like looking through the research and realizing what it was really doing to my brain. I had to give it up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And touching on the brain is such an important part because it does actually like alter your physiological and your brain activity. It's really hard for people to remember stuff and retain information as well.
Yeah, completely. Okay, so we can't talk about sugar without talking a little bit about cravings, because we have all had cravings. I mean, I totally get sugar cravings, as I said earlier, especially if I have eaten some sugar. So if I've had something, I was somewhere where I decided to have some chocolate, especially chocolate. I find if I've had chocolate, I really get sugar cravings the next day. And what about you, Jill? You get cravings as well?
Oh my God, yes. Like, especially around the holidays where there's like a pumpkin pie or like grandma's special cake or something. And then like it's there the next day. And it's like the second you wake up, you're like, I want that with a cup of coffee. Yeah, it's like once you get started, it's really hard to get off that roller coaster.
It is. If anybody else gets cravings too, let me know in the comments what you crave. But something I like to work on with all my clients is really changing the way that we look at cravings. So often it's all about willpower and we're bad people for craving this stuff, or, we're weak. And I really like to switch that up and talk about working with our biology rather than against it all the time, and looking at cravings as a call to health. Obviously there might be, hey, I've had some sugar, so now, we've talked about it's really addictive, that's why I'm craving it. But there's also only so many ways that your body has to communicate with you, and cravings are one of them. So what I really like to do is think, next time you're having a craving, ask yourself, what am I really hungry for, or why am I having this craving, rather than try and take the emotion out of it and really be a detective. Because it might be that you're deficient in something. That's we're going to go through a couple of other causes, but you can see up on the screen, I put this table that really talks about some of the cravings and some of the nutrients your body just might be asking you for. So as I said, your body's only got so many ways it can talk to you, and cravings is definitely one of them. So you can kind of have a think, or maybe, I haven't slept, or is there something that I can do to support my body right now, rather than give it the sugar, because it's you're thinking it wants sugar, but it doesn't really want the sugar. It's usually wanting something else. So some other, it could be something completely different that's causing your craving. So I've got some kind of different craving causes up on the screen here that I'm just going to go through quickly. So the first one is lack of primary food. And if secondary food is all the food that we eat, then primary food is everything else that nourishes us. So relationships, exercise, work, spirituality, things like that. So being dissatisfied with a relationship, or having an exercise routine that maybe isn't working for you, being bored, being stressed, maybe uninspired in your job, these kind of things can all cause cravings and cause emotional eating. So something to kind of have a bit of a think of when you are craving. Are you bored? Are you working on something that you're not excited about? Do you need to take a break? Just something, some things to be aware of. The next one's dehydration. Lack of water can send, your brain's trying to tell you that you're thirsty, but often it comes across as a craving or hunger. And so when you have a craving, one of the first things I like to do or suggest people to do is drink a full glass of water. Like say, okay, body, you really want the cookie. I'm going to give it to you, but I'm just going to drink like a full glass of water first, wait 10 minutes, see how I feel. Because it's amazing how sometimes that really can help. Yin-yang imbalance. So certain foods have more yin qualities while other foods have more yang qualities. So if you are eating extremely yin foods or extremely yang foods, it can cause cravings to maintain that balance. So things like eating sugar might cause cravings for meat. Raw foods might cause cravings for cooked foods. It sounds I don't know, it's something to really have a think about, because it's interesting how often you do crave that balance. The next one is inside coming out, and that's just sometimes you crave foods that you've recently eaten when it comes to sugar and things like that, but also foods you've eaten as a child. I know that if I'm sick, I sometimes crave, or if I'm just feeling, not fully sick, but you just got a bit of a cold or run down, I crave things that I used to eat as a child. And it's funny how much we do that at different times, especially if we're stressed or things like that. And so a way to really satisfy those cravings is to make healthier versions of these kind of childhood favorites or things you really want. And, if you do have you've got a childhood favorite or a recipe that you really want a healthier version for, you can get in touch with Jill or myself anytime, and I'm sure we'll have a suggestion for you. We've got a bunch of things we've tried out ourselves and some favorites that we can kind of help you out with. So there's always a kind of a healthier version you can make without going without. So the next one's seasonal, and I find this myself. Let me know if you do in the chat. I definitely crave different foods at different times of the year. So that can be definitely something that causes different cravings. Especially in winter, I find that you crave the warm foods and the more comfort foods more so than you do in summer. The next one's deficiency, so lack of nutrients. We kind of went through that in the last slide. Just there are some things that do cause cravings, and especially if you are eating a highly processed diet, you might not be getting all the nutrients you need. Adding in, making sure that you're getting some vegetables, even if that's that's a green smoothie in the morning, or kind of adding in some of these things can really, really reduce cravings. The next one's hormonal. I think for especially all us women out there, we probably experienced that at one time or another. They can definitely, hormone changes can definitely cause cravings. Mm-hmm. Stress and lack of sleep, huge one. Pretty much the only, besides if I've had sugar, pretty much the only other time that I crave sweet things myself is when I don't sleep. And I notice it every time. If I've not slept enough, I'm overtired, that's when I crave sugar. And just knowing that is so helpful, because then when I do get a sugar craving, I'm like, oh yeah, no, you didn't sleep enough last night. And it stops me wanting it as much, because I'm like, well, no, I've already deprived my body of sleep. I'm going to have to give it something to really help it get through the afternoon for me, team up with my body. I've already, not quite given you enough sleep. You're telling me that I can't have a nap right now. I'm gonna have a green smoothie instead, or I'm gonna go get a green juice, or I'm gonna do something to try and support it, because I've realized that, it's trying to tell me that it's running low on energy. I'm working it a little bit too hard. I haven't slept enough. So just even being aware of how these things causing your cravings can lead to like way more empowered choices. Mm-hmm. And then the last one here is self-sabotage, which is really interesting. But often when things are going well, sometimes self-sabotage happens. We crave foods that kind of throw us off, especially if our blood sugar gets low. It tends to be harder to, we tend to crave more things. And so that can be something that can cause cravings as well.
Well said, Karen. That was a mouthful.
Yeah. Okay, so that was a lot. That was a lot. So some tips to crush cravings. So, sorry, I just skipped. There we go, back there. I was just trying to make my slides a bit bigger. So tips to crush cravings. So one of the big things for crushing cravings is just to be a detective and try some of these things out. So I've got a bunch of tips on the screen here, but really, and if you'd like me to include this list in the replay email, let me know. Like if you'd like to have a copy of it, let me know in the chat, because different things work for different people. So here's a bunch of things that really do help people with cravings. For me, key ones is the adding in fermented foods, the sour foods, that can really help. Cleaning my teeth or having a hot shower if I've got a craving, that can really help. Also making sure that I'm really set up for success. So having like lots of healthy snacks that I can grab if I get hungry, especially if I know I'm going to be a bit tired. I can really plan in advance to make sure that I am looking after myself. I'm setting myself up for success rather than failure. If you're really tired, or that you maybe had some sugar, you're going to get some cravings, or maybe it's the afternoon you get cravings usually, then don't have no snacks, get yourself really hungry, just have lots of coffee that day. Set yourself up, get lots of snacks. I've got lots of healthy meals. I'm going to be full all day because I've like supplied myself with a nice food. I'm going to have some green tea. Try and help yourself out to kind of get through those cravings. Exercise is another big one for me. That always reduces my cravings. I always feel better after I exercise, and drinking heaps of water, that can really help too. So one of the other ones on here is reducing caffeine, and that can be an interesting one that really works for some people too, because caffeine causes kind of blood sugar spikes like sugar does. And I'm not saying they have to give up coffee forever too, but if you're having 5 or 6 coffees to get through the day, and then 2 or 3 glasses of red to kind of get yourself to sleep at night, then you're kind of having, your body's going through this real up and down kind of roller coaster all day, and it's not great for your hormones or being able to regulate your energy naturally. So caffeine can be interesting in terms of sugar cravings as well.
For those of you that love coffee and don't want to give it up, I've tried a lot of things, and I found an amazing alternative. It's called Dandy Blend. You can get it on Amazon or Vitacost, at some like Whole Foods type stores, but it's easiest just to get on the internet. But it's made from dandelion root, which is an amazing liver detox, which sugar immediately affects your liver. So you're drinking a tea I always think that like tea feels very warm and cozy, and it's like light, and I feel like coffee's got balls. And that's how I feel about this Dandy Blend tea. Like, it's hefty, and it's definitely the closest thing I have found to tasting like coffee, and it's so delicious and it's so beneficial for you. So that's a really great thing to try if you're, wanting to give up the coffee. And another good thing too is, what are you putting in your coffee? Because a lot of the creamers are filled with junk, from high fructose corn syrup to trans fats, with the hydrogenated oils, a lot of chemicals. And you can go through, one of the cartons in a week, and that's how you're starting your morning with that. And then what type of sugar are you putting in? So just by switching that morning drink out, you will save yourself a lot. Another thing that works for me, it's an Ayurvedic practice. It's a tongue scraper. It's like $6. Again, you buy it online. Dr. Tongues is the best. It's a U-shaped, and you put it in the back of your tongue, and you scrape out all the debris and bacteria and germs and food particles, like everything that's been sitting on your tongue. This might sound gross, but if you don't have a tongue scraper, all that stuff is sitting on your tongue right now. So basically, you brush your teeth, and if you're brushing your tongue, sorry, that's probably not the best motion. If you're brushing your tongue, all you're doing is moving it around as opposed to removing it and getting out of your mouth. You know, like, think of your tongue as like the entry into your mouth. It's like a wet rug that collects everything. So one of the best things you can do is remove all of those particles. After you go to bed at night, everything then climbs back up. And, you know, it's like you had cake last night, you wake up wanting it again. That's why, because it's sitting on your tongue. So for me, that's another thing that works really well. And I love that Karen said about snacks. I do not go anywhere without snacks. I live in Los Angeles, so there's a lot of traffic. And for anybody else who, you know, commutes or spends a lot of time in the car or a subway, bus, whatever, having snacks with you is one of the best things that you can do, because when your blood sugar drops, when that drops, it doesn't matter, you know, what you're going to eat. You're so starving, you're going to reach for anything. So having healthy bars, fresh fruit, I always grab like an apple or a pear, something that has a skin, because it's more fiber in it. It's going to keep me fuller longer. Having a bag of nuts, kale chips, just having stuff to keep yourself, you know, ready when the cravings hit.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it looks like you've got some other fans of the Dandy Blends in the chat too. I've never tried it myself, so I might have to check it out and see if I can find somebody to ship it out here. And yeah, you can use the tongue scraper every day.
He loves his tongue scraper too. Good. How often should you scrape your tongue? Every time you brush your teeth. So, I mean, at least you should be brushing morning and night. If you have an opportunity to brush during the day, I think that's great. As well, you should floss your teeth. I know this has nothing to do with sugar, but a dentist once said, if you don't floss your teeth, it's like literally like washing your hands like this. Like you're not opening and getting everything from in between, you know, and plaque turns into tartar. And once it turns to tartar, you got to go to the dentist, and all of the stuff in your mouth, you know, it affects the rest of your health because it goes into your bloodstream and hits everything else. So brush your teeth twice a day, use the tongue scraper twice, morning and night. If you brush your teeth the third time, good for you. And then scrape again. But also if you brush your teeth, say, you know, you eat dinner, you have a little snack, and then brush your teeth at 8 p.m. and do the whole like brush, floss, mouth rinse, and check your mouth rinse too, because there's artificial sugars in there. You do not want to go through that whole routine just to have one cookie. That's another easy way to stay away from the kitchen.
Yeah, that's a good one too.
Hanger is a real thing.
Make your own mouthwash. Yeah, that's a great idea. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Redmond Real Salt, they have an amazing salt, and you can do a saltwater rinse and just put maybe like a tablespoon per 16 ounces. I have a glass jar that I put it in, and I'll put like a couple drops of clove essential oil, because salt is incredibly healing for your mouth. If you ever like bite your tongue or bite the side of your lip, or, you know, have a little cut from eating a toasted sandwich, it's very healing and it's completely natural. The other thing for tips about reducing cravings or just reducing eating sugar, don't have it out and don't have it in your house, because you can only have willpower for so long. So if you know it's there, and every time you walk to the kitchen, you're like eyeing those cookies, if it's not in your house and you have apples out in a bowl instead of cookies out in a cookie jar, or, you know, like my dad always has Jelly Bellies out on his counter, and every time he walks by, I see him just grab a couple, and I'm like, I wonder how many at the end of the day he's like, grabbing, as opposed to having like raw almonds. My friend, go to the Sprouted Nut Company. He sells the most delicious sprouted almonds. They're incredible. So having something like that on your counter versus like M&Ms or candy, it makes it so much easier if you set up your environment with foods that are nutritious. You know, you see them and that's what you're going to eat.
Completely.
Okay. So no sugar. Okay. Everyone who knows me and Karen know we definitely enjoy dessert. We're not saying that you can't have sugar at all, but it's staying away from the refined sugar, the added sugar alcohols, the artificial sugar, the stuff that also comes with the high fructose corn syrup, artificial colors, flavorings, the things that are really detrimental and bad for you. On the other hand, there's a lot of really great sugar alternatives, things that you can, use in beverages, make tasty desserts and treats with. So let's go to the next slide, Karen. Perfect. So sugar, we can go to the next one too. So some sugar alternatives. These are a few of our favorites. I love to bake, and I used to bake like whatever, and now everything I make, I try to add superfoods in there. Like using almond flour instead of regular flour, coconut oil instead of any other type of oil. Canola, you never want to use canola. It's 80% of it is made from genetically modified beans. You got to be really careful. So anyway, so some sugar alternatives. Dates are amazing. So there's no processing because it's actually a whole food. It's really high in potassium, in manganese, magnesium, and copper. They also provide significant amounts of calcium, iron, vitamin K, and many B vitamins, including vitamin B6 and folate. So there's even more stuff about dates and all of the stuff on this list. But dates are amazing. You can soak them for like 10 minutes and then blend them in either like a Cuisinart or your blender, and it becomes a vegan caramel. You can mix a little nut butter in there, and it is so good. Or you can mix dates with like a can of coconut cream, and that makes a caramel sauce as well, and it's so delicious. Okay, what else? Oh, so maple syrup. Good maple syrup. I'm not talking about Log Cabin or Aunt Jemima or any of the artificial stuff, like real grade A, grade B maple syrup, like dark, and it tastes delicious. It's filled with calcium, iron, magnesium, phosphorus, potassium, and zinc, plus vitamins, thiamine, riboflavin, niacin, and B6. The other thing too is everything that's on this list, and especially maple syrup, it's low on the glycemic index. So it's basically how quickly a food spikes your blood sugar. So something like agave is not great. It was touted for so long as being like a great health alternative, but the way that it's processed, it's very similar to high fructose corn syrup. It's not liquid in its natural state, and it's about like 90 on the glycemic index, and it has like a lot of fructose in it. So don't be fooled by agave. Coconut sugar. I love coconut sugar. It tastes really good, and it's very similar in taste in baked goods, just to any regular sugar. It contains 16 amino acids and 4 B vitamins, iron, potassium, magnesium, and zinc. And then you have coconut nectar, which has all of this stuff from above. Plus, it has beneficial living enzymes as it is a raw sugar. So they basically just tap it from the tree. And then raw honey. Any of the bee products, from propolis to bee pollen to raw honey are amazing for you because they're anti-everything, antibacterial, antifungal. It contains probiotics. It's amazing, when you're sick or if you have a cough, throat irritation, and it strengthens your immune system and so much more. So these are 5 of my favorite things to use, whether it's in tea or baked goods. Let's see, sounds great. Mitchell might have to try this dandy tea. Yes, absolutely. Have you guys tried any of these all natural sugar alternatives? Are they new to you? Let us know in the chat what you think, if you've tried them, if you're willing to try them. They're very, very good. All right, so fruits and sweet veggies. So a good way to try to ward off, cravings for the bad stuff is by filling your body with naturally occurring sweet stuff. So any fruit is good, but the lower sugar fruits are any of those that have, I always say like skin or seeds are the best. So berries, blueberries, blackberries, raspberries, strawberries, goji berries. If you haven't heard of goji berries, look them up after this call and get some. They're like one of the most amazing beauty foods. They're a superfood, really high in vitamin A. They have protein in them. They're really great for your eyesight, vitamin C. And then mulberries are incredible. They're like a very mild, like dried berry that are so good, high again in protein for a fruit. And then grapefruit is awesome, kiwi, green apples, and pears. And again, all of these have a good amount of fiber in them, so it slows down the absorption. Yes, it has fructose because there's so much fiber and you're actually eating a whole food. Your body knows what to do with it. It's digested so much slower. So it's always better to eat real fruit as opposed to having fruit juice. And then with sweet veggies, having stuff like beets and yams, sweet potatoes, yams, same thing. Like butternut squash, spaghetti squash, like all of those are wonderful things to add in. Let's see. Oh, Alguna says she just got a nut milk bag, so she looks forward to making her own milk. Yeah, it's really easy to make your milk. If you guys go onto Amazon and you get a nut milk bag, it's basically just like a cloth bag, and you soak your nuts overnight, release the phytic acid, make them softer, rinse them, and then you mix like a cup to maybe 3 or 4 cups of water. You can add in like 1 date or a little maple syrup, some maybe like vanilla, blend it on up. You just milk it out. I actually have a video about making almond milk. It's fun to make and it tastes so good, and you can use that in your coffee instead of creamer if you're going to keep drinking coffee.
Awesome. Oh, we've got some fans of maple syrup, dates. I feel better about my raw honey now. Yeah, awesome. Yeah, cool. Lots of you, looks like, yeah, Jennifer loves dates. I love dates too. Dates with a little bit of almond butter in it. Such a good snack. Love a date with almond butter. Mm-hmm. So good. Or peanut butter even. Just check the ingredients list. Lots of peanut butter and almond butters come with a lot of sugar, and some of them even add vegetable oils, which I have no idea why they want to add that in, but just keep to the ones that just have peanuts or just have almonds in them.
I do have to say a note about peanuts. They are grown on the ground, whereas like almonds and other nuts are grown on the tree. So they're more prone to toxins, specifically aflatoxins. So you have to be very careful because mold grows on them. And I would always recommend buying organic and limiting your peanuts or peanut butter to like special occasions or every now and again.
Yeah, no, good one for sure.
Eat the kiwi skin. Yeah, you can eat kiwi skin. It's edible. I never have just because it's so furry that I haven't tried it yet. But it has a ton of fiber in it. And vitamin C. So yes, you can totally eat it. We'll eat it together next time. We'll try it.
Let me know how it goes. I know you can eat it, but I've never eaten it. I just always cut it off.
Mm-hmm. Same.
Totally. Cool. So we are, it's been great to chat with you in the chat. We are going to do a Q&A in just a moment. So if you have any questions about cravings or sugar or something you've been wondering or something you've been working on, start putting them in the chat now. Jill and I are going to tell you a little bit about how to work with us further. But then we are going to we're going to stick around for a Q&A. So start putting your questions in the chat. We'll give you some time to do that while we just also share how to work with us further. Jackie just wrote though, thanks Karen and Jill. I've got a dash, but this was brilliant. I'm so glad you liked it, Jackie. We'll talk soon.
Thanks, Jackie.
Awesome. Okay.
Cool. So my business is called Health Uncensored. You might have gotten a little taste, but the way in which I talk is a bit uncensored, and the way in which I deliver information, I like to just be upfront and honest about how things affect us and how everything is interrelated. So I do one-on-one health coaching. I do a 3-month or a 6-month program because I like to make sure that you have enough time to integrate and sustain and make changes that will last you a lifetime, as well as, educating you on information that corresponds with the goals that you've set. I work online, so it doesn't matter where the heck you live. We can connect just like this, over Skype or FaceTime or over the phone. If you prefer to have no makeup on and be in your pajamas, all good. I can help you with a plethora of things. That's the first time I've used that word plethora, by the way. So weight management, energy, stress management, gut health, food cravings, natural products. I would say I am an expert in natural products. I've tried so many things. I will loosely say I'm an environmental toxins expert. I am obsessed with what we put on our bodies, what we breathe in, cleaning products that we use, natural products on our bodies, organic, all of that stuff. Sleep, exercise. I'm also an ACE certified personal trainer, so I know my shit. Immune system health, healthy alternatives, meal plans. So for today, I have a little special for you. So if you book within the next 48 hours a initial health consultation, I will take half price off. So it will go from $49 to $25. So you have 48 hours to make a decision and come back to me and say, yes, Jill, I want you. So if you do, you go to my website, www.healthuncensored.com. Just go to the contact page, submit your information, and just put webinar special so that I know that you are on this webinar. So the way that I work, you get 2 60-minute sessions per month. So it's twice a month that we'll meet every 2 weeks so that you have time in between. Email support between sessions. A lot of people text me also. We become real good friends. Recipes that are healthy and simple to prepare if you'd like that. Coaching and support to help you make the dietary and lifestyle changes you want. Simple but informative handouts that will increase your nutrition knowledge, similar to stuff that we presented today. Access to my monthly newsletter with the latest health tips and recipes. And I have to say, I think it's pretty funny. And my personal commitment to your health and success. So if you're interested, I would love to hear from you.
Awesome. And so my business is realenergyfood.com, but I also teamed up with another health coach, Sarah Klein, and together we run Whole Clean Living. And so we run a 30-day clean living challenge, which is all centered around the 3 pillars of clean eating, movement, and meditation, stress reduction. So it's 30 days where you get an email every day, you get meal plans for the full 30 days, so you get a new one each week. We've got one of the most supportive Facebook groups going around. I love the community that we've built through our 30-day challenges. And you also then get a weekly coaching call with us. So we do a group coaching call so we can all help each other. Everybody's at the same stage of the challenge. And so the next one is starting on May 1st. As I said, so it's 4 weeks of the daily emails. We've got videos. The live group coaching calls are super fun. All your recipes and shopping lists. You also get full email access and Facebook access to Sarah and I. We are using a habits tracking app to keep you on track too. We ran a competition through that. So as you, we like a bit of healthy competition. So at the end, we do give 3 prizes away for our top people who have tracked all their great habits throughout the 30 days. We've got some recorded meditations. Sarah is a yoga instructor, so we do bring some yoga into that too. And we do set you up with an accountability partner throughout the whole thing. So we really try and give you everything to succeed in the next 30 days. And people come, you might want to just really kickstart your health habits. You might want to really do a bit of a spring clean. You might want to work on some gut issues. We didn't really design the program to focus on gut issues, but people get some amazing results in terms of improving their symptoms in terms of gut health. So if you want any more information, you can just go across to realenergyfood.com/challenge. So realenergyfood.com/challenge. Or ask me any questions anytime. The challenge is $97. It starts May 1st. For the next 48 hours, I'm going to do a special for this webinar too. We have a continuation program called the Clean Living Club. I'm going to give you a month's free access to the club. And I'm also going to give you a strategy session one-on-one, just 15-minute call to get you set up for this challenge too, so that we can just even out anything that's really specific to you, or if we need to make any adjustments to the meal plans or things like that. So that's just for the next 48 hours if you join us. So many options for you now. There's no excuse to not be in the best health of your life. You got Jill and I there to help you. So we're going to jump across to the Q&A.
If you guys have any questions at all based around sugar, or if there's something that's unrelated to sugar, but you just have a health concern or a question, maybe if you want to know some of our, favorite products or alternatives, if there's something that you love and you're like, what's a better version of this? Put it in the chat, let us know. But thank you so much for all coming and for chatting with us and spending the time. It's awesome that you're here, because it clearly shows that, you're wanting and willing to upgrade your lifestyle.
Completely. Thank you so much for coming, everybody. We love chatting to you all. It looks like we've got a question from Alana. What is the best way to track added sugars? Most food diary apps like MyFitnessPal will only track sugar altogether, so you never know how many grams per day you get from natural versus added sugar. That is a good one. Best way to really track it. I really like to use a food diary and just write it all down. So that means that, if you were doing that for a week, you would just either on a piece of paper, or I've got some templates. If you want one, let me know. You can just hit reply to some of these reminder emails and I can send it over to you. Some templates, and I would just actually write in. So have a look at what you're eating. And if you're trying to really check added sugar, if that's the thing you're focusing on, then I'd write it down in the food diary. Unless you know a cool app or something that does specifically that, Jill.
Oh, I don't know an app for that, but I had suggested, if you're eating real food, then there's not added sugar. If you're eating something that comes in a package, always read the ingredient list, because it will say on there exactly what sugar. So if it's, for example, like a Lara bar, it's just going to say dates, apples, and walnuts, depending on what the bar is. But if you're eating another bar, there might be brown rice syrup, or whatever other form of sugar. It might even just say glucose or fruit sugar, that it's still going to have whatever added sugar is in there. So always read the ingredient list of anything that you eat. And then when you check the nutrition label as well, there's a new nutrition label that's coming out. It's not on all foods yet, but the new nutrition label will say sugar, and then it'll say next to it added sugar. So just making sure that you're conscious of what you're eating and putting into your body and reading it, then you'll definitely see if there's any added sugar.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Jennifer. Hey girl. Do either of you have a good salad dressing recipe so I can avoid those sugary store-bought dressings? I mean, there's like a ton of great recipes. I don't know a lot of them. My husband will vouch for that. I just do like very simple, basic stuff. Like olive oil with lemon juice and a couple of herbs. And depending on what flavor you want to take it, you could do like Italian with basil and oregano, or you can do like a little sesame oil with chives and sesame seeds. Like balsamic vinegars, making sure you're using like a really good one. But for a store-bought brand, there is Bragg's has like some really great dressings that are super clean, that have apple cider vinegar in them, lemon juice, olive oil. Like when you say like the store-bought ones, you got to watch out for canola oil, safflower oil, sunflower. Like there's a lot of those vegetable oils in there. But I feel like just a good basic is doing, any sort of olive oil, avocado oil, hazelnut oil, walnut oil, like start experimenting with different oils. And then depending on which direction you want to take it, adding in some herbs, maybe a little honey or nectar, coconut nectar. I added that in a dressing last night. And then always make sure that you put all of the vinegar and the sweetener and whatever in first, and then you pour in your olive oil and whisk it so that it emulsifies together. What about you, Karen? Do you have a good dressing?
There's a few. There's a bunch of great recipes that I like to try. So ones that I can remember, simple ones that I can remember off the top of my head is, like just using, I like to just use olive oil, balsamic vinegar, and pressed garlic. And I even just put it in a little jar and then like shake it, but you can totally whisk it, either one. Or using olive oil, it's olive oil, red wine vinegar. I put in some mustard and garlic. It kind of makes it a bit creamier with a little bit of mustard in there. You can whisk that up and have that as a dressing. Or I really also like to use oil, lemon juice, and just a little bit of honey and some cracked salt and pepper. And again, like shake it up or whisk it up. So oil, lemon juice, honey, salt and pepper. Yeah. That's a really good,
also a good addition.
Sorry?
Dijon mustard.
Yeah.
Tahini. Jennifer, I know you know what tahini is, but for other people who don't, it's just, blended up sesame seeds, which are really high in calcium and iron and some protein. And you can mix tahini with, again, like olive oil, lemon juice, a little salt and pepper, and make sure you're using good, either Himalayan sea salt, Celtic sea salt, real sea salt, something good. That all tastes really good together. Or even adding in, doing like an avocado-based dressing. You can blend that up with some stuff, some cilantro and other herbs.
Totally. That's a good one too. Cool. Yeah. All right. Well, it looks like that must be all the questions. Thank you for all the lovely comments you've got in the chat. Guys, I'm so glad you found it useful and we were, able to help you out. Any other questions you've got, you can always hit reply to any of the emails that we've sent out, or get in touch with Jill and I on social media or on our website.
Yeah, come find us on social. We'd love to chat with you guys there too. But thanks again for joining in, and I hope it was super helpful and motivated you to make a healthy dessert tonight, or skip it all together if that's what your plan is.
Totally. Awesome. Well, great to chat to you all. Bye for now.
Bye, Jennifer.